Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the far end of the bench. Jimmy, it's AJ Hinge, first of all.
You know what he did, he doesn't deserve a name anymore. He'll be Alex until further notice.
Yeah, both those guys are ridiculous. It's they don't deserve it.
I thought they were the same person, honestly, because I sent you as the Astros manager that got hired by the Red Sox. No, he was the Red Sox manager before he had his year-long suspension. That's still horse shit. But he was the bench coach when he was with Houston, and then obviously AJ Hinge is the Tigers manager now.
The whole BS.
So
it's ridiculous they're still in baseball. But more importantly, it's Masters week. I got my Masters hat on. I told you all I'd change the jerseys up, so I got my Mavericks Luka jersey on too. A little bit of everything because the basketball season does have a start date now, December 22nd, which we'll get to in a little bit. Don't you worry. But you got to come in with something new every week. Of course, our light goes out right in the middle of it, but we're just going to keep rolling because my dumb ass is ridiculous and still getting used to this. So, but yeah, the Mavericks jersey, Masters hat, man, Jimmy, it's a good week for sports.
It's a good week for sports, and then we also got. I'll show you guys, rock it out a little bit. We got some prototype sweatshirts that we made. I got a prototype mask made because we feel like there's a few more benchwarmers on the bench than when we started. And we might as well give you guys something to wear so we know you're part of the tribe, and you can let your friends know that they should be coming over and joining us on the bench too, because this is growing, and this is a big week for us. We got
huge week.
This episode, you're listening to this Wednesday, we're recording all of this on Monday night.
It's been a long day.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
It's been a little bit, but we got this episode Wednesday. Jeremy, our Masters preview show, is coming out on Friday, and then we also will have our first NFL UnHinged. I know we said it last week. Some things came up this week. Come hell or high water, we promise an NFL UnHinged show. And right now, for sure, it's going to be us, the High Low Sports Podcast with DJ and Kelsey, and then the Gridiron Gallery. Zach Kyleman will be joining us as well. And then Jim and Carlos are going through some personal things right now. If you follow at Network UnHinged on Twitter, you saw both of them kind of have some personal issues. So if they're able to make the show, they'll be on there as well. But if not, we will have an episode for you guys. So
we're pushing out content like no other, right? There's so much different things that you guys won't want to miss. That Friday episode has been absolutely amazing. Yeah. Jeremy is the most outlandish
he's the
loud
OG benchwarmer.
OG benchwarmer.
And he also listened to Center of Attention so he was part of the 20 of you guys that listened to this when this was Center of Attention.
So yeah, it's Jeremy. It's a lot of great takes, and he's very, very knowledgeable about the game of golf, which both of us aren't as much, maybe me a little bit, but Jimmy knows golf through Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, I know Happy Gilmore and Shooter, and I know Tiger.
Tiger, yeah, Phil.
I knew Tiger. I know Phil because he was on Arizona IST or something. I know Jack Nicklaus because of it was Arnold Palmer. Yeah, I know Arnold Palmer from the drink.
There's Jack Nicklaus.
I know who Jack Nicklaus is.
So that's pretty hit. That's a good lot.
It's a handful, and I watched Bubba win his first one because that was the time I woke up on my Easter nap, and Bubba won the Masters, so I got to see that. But yeah, I'm nowhere near. Jeremy is like you with basketball and me with football. He's just an encyclopedia. So that's a good episode on that you guys will be able to listen to on Friday.
And if you want more golf stuff, you go check out the Duff City podcast as well on the UnHinged Network, because they're straight golf. We only do bonus episodes for golf, and they're 24/7 golf, so they have a lot of good stuff over there as well.
Yeah. Other than stuff with the podcast, anything like what's been going on with you? We haven't seen each other since we recorded last Monday. We talk almost every day with stuff going on with the podcast. But what's been new?
Yeah, not much. I'm coaching little kids now. Things that's
coaching weird. Little kids.
I'm a basketball coach now, so I got that going. But podcast is going well. We're having a lot of fun here. Like we said, the merch is going to be coming out soon. Yep. Everything with the UnHinged Network has been fantastic.
You make all the graphics for the podcast that we post on social media.
Oh, that takes me forever sometimes, man. I promise some of the graphics it's just time consuming, and sometimes I'm just lazy like that because I do so much, and it's one of those things where I may not get them out on time, but I get them out. So
at least they're out there, and then it's been a fun week. I spent 6 hours on Saturday pressing these sweatshirts. All these ones, we're giving them out to get friends of the show and family and friends for us. I hand pressed me and at Becky Cakes. Follow her on Instagram, and if you need, she can make specialty cakes. She does shirts and sweatshirts. She can make a mask like we showed. She can pretty much print anything. I think we might be able to do like koozies or something. And I know she can do car stickers, but she's very creative and she will work with us. She kind of helped us put this to a t-shirt because we have our logo obviously, and then we added some new stuff. But she was very, very good to work with, and it's a fair price, and it's we're small business. I'll call us that. We're small business, so it's good to support another small business. Shout out to Becky Cakes. Thank you for the sweatshirts. They're awesome. Yeah,
exactly. Like we said, the hoodies are out to family and friends, but be on the lookout. We're definitely working with the network and trying to get more product out, not with only our podcast, but everyone else's podcast as well. So you'll be able to check out the J-Dash merchandise, the Duff City, the reserves, whatever it may be, the wrestling, JFO, whatever it may be. Like, there's going to be so much stuff on throughout all of it.
Yeah, it's a big time. Get on board now because we're moving in the right direction. And now with that, let's get into some sports because, like we say every week, this is a sports podcast. And it was kind of a whatever weekend going into it, but then things changed rapidly.
Picked up quickly.
Very quickly. We'll start off because and I'm sorry if you're an NC State fan. I know we have some listeners out in the Carolinas. I've jinxed you 110%. I'll put my hand up.
Bad.
I tweeted out at the beginning of the fourth quarter that you guys were not only going to win outright, you'd also covered the spread. You still covered the spread. Like I tweeted it out early on because I forgot that Miami, like Derek King he's an X factor. I think he reasserted himself in the Heisman race with this last game. 31-41, 430 yards and 5 touchdowns. He basically put the Hurricanes on his back and willed them to a victory. But they did cover, so if you put some money down on that, I think it was plus 180 for them to cover the 10-point spread, and they did that. But Miami, they picked up a game on Clemson, so now they have a still pretty good chance of making it to the conference championship towards the end of the year. That was a big win for them.
I'll talk about them later in the beats of the week because right now they're underdogs to play Virginia.
They're underdogs against Virginia?
Yeah, it's plus. I gotta look it back up, but it's very. Pretty crazy odds that they're underdogs after their performance last week. Like we said, I think right now I can't say they're the number 2, the second best team in the ACC because there's Notre Dame still in that conversation. We'll get to that game in a minute because what a game that was. But they're underdogs now, plus 110 to play Virginia Tech, which is a little ridiculous. So that's a preview to the later beat of the week. But yeah, you totally jinxed yourself there. I mean, I picked an upset. I'll say it was an upset. I wasn't that surprised, but Indiana beat Michigan, and like you'll hear about it on Friday's episode because our boy Jeremy Feerer is an Indiana Hoosier, and he loves all that. But I picked them to upset, and I wasn't very surprised with that. I knew that was coming in out the bat, but you almost hit the NC State right in the beat on the bat.
Yeah, and if they would have won outright,
you jinxed yourself.
If they would have won outright, and you did put down the safety parlay with them covering the 10-point spread, you could have won yourself a good amount of money. I apologize. I'll put my hand up. That was on me. I got cocky.
We hit most of our beats.
I got cocky, and
we hit most of our beats in the league.
Let's stay in the ACC and let's get to this because it was.
What a game! I think game of the year already. It was right up there with the Texas Oklahoma game. That 6 overtime. I think it was maybe 4 overtime game. I think this was game of the year so
far. Yeah, it was the best ACC game that I've seen in a while. And now, I mean, both teams are still. You still got to play out the rest of the season. Notre Dame's got a tough Boston College team to play now. That gave Clemson a really good run for their money. They had to come back in the second half. My big story out of that one, DJ Uiagalelei did not lose Clemson.
That was pretty good.
I did figure it out. I had to read an article, but he 439 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. My biggest surprise out of this one was their guy, Travis Etienne, a senior running back, and a guy that last week we gave praise as a possible Heisman dark horse. Yep. But he did not play well, and this was a game, especially with a freshman quarterback, you got to take some pressure off. When you're going up against Ian Book, a guy who's played at the level with Notre Dame for the past 3 years, and playing in South Bend was going to be tough. I honestly thought that they had this even with the freshman quarterback. I thought that I thought Notre Dame was just a paper undefeated team, but they proved themselves. Their defense is pretty good. They held Clemson in check at least for the first half, and then they made it close in the second. But
it's going to be very interesting because that shakes up the top four completely. If Clemson wins out now, I think they're shoo-in for that fourth spot.
Yeah.
Notre Dame now, it's probably going to be Alabama 1. I would guess Notre Dame is probably 2.
it is, yeah. Alabama's 1, Notre Dame is 2, and then we got. Okay, and then Ohio State is 3, but like that kind of brings it full circle because if you remember 2 years ago, Trevor Lawrence's first college football playoff, that was when Notre Dame got in as the 4th seed, not having a conference championship. That's always a big debate when you're talking about Notre Dame, and Clemson absolutely beat them up. It was not even close. Trevor Lawrence was on fire that game, and now this kind of brings it back full circle. They were able to overcome a Clemson team. Granted, not with Trevor Lawrence. He was on the sidelines because he had tested negative enough times, but you got to have a certain amount of practices. It'll be interesting. Like Dabo's the coach that you want in that situation where you have a team who doesn't lose all that often. He can kind of bring them back and make sure that they stay focused towards the end of the season. Hey, Notre Dame slips up one time, we're back in the conference championship, able to fight our way into maybe a 3-4 spot in the playoff. It's going to be a different route in the playoff for the Tigers if they make it now. But I think that's the biggest statement win under Brian Kelly for the Irish.
Yeah, no, it's Notre Dame has solidified themselves in the Final Four. That's 100%. It's going to be dependent on if Clemson wins out. Now, that 4th spot Clemson's going to be fighting with maybe a 1-loss Ohio State team if they lose to Indiana or whatever, like chaos, whatever it may be.
But I do think that this actually bodes better for the ACC, and it kind of puts the pressure on the Big Ten.
Yeah,
because now you can have a possibility of a one-loss conference champion, and then I assume Notre Dame's gonna. If we say Notre Dame finishes the rest of their schedule undefeated, Clemson or Miami is gonna play them in the conference championship. They beat Notre Dame in that conference championship. Then you got a runner-up. You got a 1-loss ACC champion, so they're gonna get a spot because they're a conference champion. But then you also like the SEC normally. You got a 1-loss team who lost in the conference championship.
Well, Georgia lost this week, but they were a 1-loss team that could have squeezed in.
Florida is going to be because now it's going to be Florida, Alabama in the SEC championship. Oh, man, we're going to have, I think, now duplicate conferences unless I very highly doubt a 1-loss Big Ten team will get into the playoff at this point because that took a lot of pressure and put it all on whoever's going to win the Big Ten, and you're going to have to be undefeated. I don't think 1-loss Big Ten champion gets in now. Because you're going to still have Cincinnati.
I think it eliminates Cincinnati from the playoff, even if they go undefeated, because that 4th spot is going to be secured by Clemson or another SEC school.
This is if the Big Ten has a 1-loss conference champion, I think that elevates Cincinnati. Because if Cincinnati's an undefeated conference champion, I know it's a lesser conference, and they're not going to have a signature like last year. Ohio State had a signature win over like Oklahoma or something. You're not going to have that this year. So
I still think a 1-loss Ohio State team has more of an argument over Cincinnati.
If it's a 1-loss Ohio State team, sure. But what if it's a 1-loss Indiana team?
If that were to happen, that would mean Ohio State only lost 1 game also, but Ohio State would still get precedence over that. If we're being honest, if Indiana wins out, they're in the Final Four. Let's be honest here, because they have to go through Ohio State,
undefeated Big Ten, definitely in the top 4.
Yep, and Michigan State. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going
BYU's out there at 8-0, 8th in the country right now, and I watched them on Friday night. I was watching some Mountain West football after dark. It was like 10:30 at night, and they were playing Boise State in Boise. They're a team that's Alabama beats people because they're just flat out more talented than everybody else in the country. BYU, their offensive scheme is one of the most intricate that I've seen at the college football level. Their defense is rough and tough. They always get those big Polynesian guys up on the defensive line. BYU's a sleeper, and they're going to be they've played more games than anybody else in the country right now. They're going to be like a 12-13-0 team that doesn't have a conference championship, but if they go undefeated and you got chaos in all these conference championships, that's where most of my Cincinnati BYU takes come into play, is if there's chaos in the conference championship.
No, there's going to be chaos. It doesn't. After Notre Dame, we all thought Clemson was going to steamroll through Notre Dame.
I didn't think they'd lose.
Notre Dame would have been eliminated from the playoff. That's what we thought. And now Clemson losing stirs everything up for that 3-4 spot. I think the one big takeaway, though, that I'm taking away from that Clemson Notre Dame game is Trevor Lawrence is going up this year. There's no doubt in my mind that Trevor Lawrence is not staying another year. I think whatever his last name is the future quarterback at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence will be back and he'll be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year, but he's gone and Clemson is going to move on next year with whatever.
There we go.
And I know news. The Pac-12 was back.
Yeah,
Pac-12 football was back. Skull Buffs, they took down UCLA.
Nobody expected that.
Nobody expected that. I was almost about to heavily bet on UCLA to win that game, which is ridiculous to me. But
Chip Kelly's not too consistent when you're betting on.
Shout out to our former teammates, Dimitri Stanley and Johnny Van Diest, two guys that we both play with, playing right now for CU, balling out, big wins. Hopefully Pac-12, they're probably only chance Pac-12 makes it is if it's Oregon.
If everybody else has like a 2-loss conference champion, because even Oregon's gonna.
Well, I mean, we're talking about Cincinnati being undefeated. Pac-12's undefeated.
If you put in a 6-0 Pac-12 champion over a team who's like 11-0 in a conference champion,
I think they play 8 games, don't they?
Nah, I don't think they have enough time to play 8 games.
I don't know. I think they might be playing 8 games.
I think Big Ten's 8 and then Pac-12 is 6 because Pac-12 came back 2 weeks after.
I thought it might be more than that. If it's 8 games,
if it's 8-0 team. 8-0 is a big difference from 6-0. But if it's 6-0 and they're a conference champion, then Pac-12's nobody has a chance for the top 4. My big surprise in the Pac-12 was USC because they had a big time comeback in the fourth quarter. They scored and got an onside kick and scored in like a span of 90 seconds, beat Herm Edwards at Arizona State, who I thought was going to be kind of a sleeper in the conference.
It's ASU. ASU's like a party school.
But, I mean, the biggest, I'd say the favorite, obviously, right now is Oregon. You have Washington State kind of hanging around there. We played against him, Borghi, who played at Pomona, the Colorado kid. He's the starting tailback for Washington State, and they got good quarterbacks. Without Mike Leach, I don't give them as much credit as I would have. Mm-hmm. But they're a sleeper to upset Oregon in that conference. And then maybe the Buffs benefit from coronavirus.
The Buffs just took down UCLA.
I know they just took down UCLA.
I love my Buffs, but that's
they've won the South before. It happened only once. Maybe lightning strikes twice. Everybody can find a nut every once in a while. Pause.
And Jimmy was right. They do only play 6 games, so yeah, you're right about that.
They got to be undefeated, and everybody else has to have 2 losses. 6 games is not.
They have to have chaos, like we.
At least they're playing. At least they are playing, because I did say I just wanted everybody to play. But
makes the Rose Bowl game interesting because undefeated Pac-12 school to go up against maybe a Indiana, a Big Ten school.
Yeah,
that
would be something. So. And they just had a big. Pac-12, Big Ten had a matchup in the Rose Bowl last year. If you're a Pac-12 school, that's your golden goose this year is playing in the Rose Bowl. You want to win the conference, and then you want to win the Rose Bowl, and that'd be as successful as you could be this year. I'm going to take the stand is bothering me, so I'll go ahead and hold the mic there. Anything else coming up in college football that we want?
I mean, that Clemson Notre Dame game was the big slate on. Like we said, Indiana, Michigan State. We talked
trap game.
We talked with Jeremy a little bit. And he said it is a trap game because, like I said, they played Michigan this past week, knocked them down, and now they play Michigan State before they go play Ohio State. Both on the road, gonna be tough.
I don't think Mel Tucker's gonna ruin the Cinderella season. But you got to make sure you keep
take care of business.
Yeah,
you got to take care of business. Michigan State. I think that's my game of the week, just because there's not a whole lot of action. I think Alabama plays.
They might play LSU. They might not.
Yeah.
I want to bring up one other thing. I say might not because it's a possibility of getting canceled due to coronavirus. LSU had an outbreak. But is this the worst follow-up season especially as dominant a season as we saw them have last year? But is this the worst follow-up to a national championship season that I think we've ever seen?
It's very bad. It's
2-3, and you're going into the game this weekend if they do play as a 28-point underdog.
Oh my gosh!
At home in Death Valley.
Yeah, to think LSU was a 28-point underdog this week,
especially after last year.
Yeah, especially after last week, the way Joe Burrow played, they went into Alabama and beat them last year, and now you're at home and 28-point underdog. They got murdered by Auburn a few weeks back. I called that another beat.
They got beat by Mississippi State in Mike Leach's debut out there. KJ Costello, former Stanford Cardinal.
Ed Orgeron needs to get some more crawfish and into those boys down there at LSU.
Something I mean. Granted, they lost Joe Brady, and Joe Brady's proven to be one of the top offensive minds in the NFL level now with the Panthers, and what he's been able to do without CMC for the past couple weeks. Might not have CMC for for the next couple of weeks. He's possibly injured.
Mm-hmm.
My big surprise from last weekend was Florida, how much they dominated Georgia, and now they've definitely got the East spot in the SEC championship. Now it's going to be them and Alabama.
Unless they get surprised upset by somebody, but I don't see that happening.
I mean, even still, if they lose one, they got room because Georgia's 4-2. If they lose one more, they have the head-to-head over Georgia. They'll still go to the championship. But if they want a shot at the playoff, win out the rest of the year, beat Alabama, and get the SEC.
I think a undefeated Florida team, or they might have one loss.
They have one loss.
I think they get in the playoff over an undefeated Cincinnati team if they take down Alabama, and that's even more chaos because then you probably see Notre Dame being a 1 seed.
Notre Dame would be 1.
Notre Dame would be 1 seed. Ohio State, if they go undefeated, is the 2 seed, and then you have 3 and 4. Is that Alabama, Clemson, or is it Florida? That's just complete chaos.
It would depend on what happens in the ACC, but it would be whoever wins or whoever if you wanted to see Clemson in it, they'd have to beat Notre Dame in the ACC championship.
Yeah.
But I think Alabama's loving this because now they know they have their one loss window that they can take. If they lose in the SEC championship game, they're going to be the 4th seed, especially this year.
Yeah. You could see a thing where they lose to Auburn, and then the Iron Bowl is always a tough one for them at the end of the season. So that's could spell trouble for them.
48 points Florida scored on Georgia's defense, and Georgia's defense is still as good as they have been in the past. Their offense is lacking from what they have had, but that was a statement in the swamp, especially after not being able to play for a couple weeks and having the COVID outbreak early. Now they're back in rare form. Kyle Trask, he was a backup in high school, and now he's come out and he's
in the Heisman race too. Though he's
a top quarterback.
His draft stock is rising as well, man. He's jumping a bunch of boards.
Yeah, I would say he's going into the season maybe 4th, 5th round because he's a bigger kid and depending on a combine now he's like maybe 2nd, 3rd round depending on how.
Maybe he's a future Denver Broncos quarterback because of his height.
John Elway does pick his quarterbacks based off a measuring stick. That's big going on in college football. Texas A&M is hanging around there. They only have 1 loss. They're top 10 in the country right now. And Coastal Carolina, they're top 15.
I know they've been on a roll. I listen to the Pat McAfee show a lot. That's one of my favorite podcasts I listen to out there, along with all the UnHinged Network podcasts.
And Barstool. We'll throw Barstool.
All a little bit of everything. But I love listening to Pat McAfee show, and he loves betting on Coastal Carolina. They're his favorite bet to take every week, and I might have to start taking them up too.
Some gamblers find some weird things to bet on teams. If you want to find something for Coastal Carolina, that color scheme.
Green jersey. But there's a red field, there's the blue field, now there's a teal field. Come on.
As long as you can win, you can look as dumb as you want. It looks cool when you're winning. So if you wanted to maybe pick, if you wanted to bet on something and then have something fun to watch, Coastal Carolina, especially if they're playing at home with the black helmets and the teal uniforms, kind of look like Jacksonville, honestly, a little bit.
Yeah, it's just weird.
It's a little weird.
It's weird. Now let's stick in college sports. Because NCAA basketball, I tweeted out last week that it's coming back. It's coming back soon. The AP poll just dropped. Yep. My GCU Lopes up are playing a tough conference. Hopefully, might be a sleeper to make a tournament. Maybe make a run. No Havocs this year may be a problem, but if you don't know about the GCU Havocs, be sure to go look them up because it's a party. But it's kind of interesting. I know you have some friends who are Gonzaga fans, but Gonzaga was the number 1 team in the AP poll, which I thought was very, very interesting.
Did they finish when the season got canceled? Were they number 1?
I don't believe so. I think it was a lot of different things going on. I know Georgia was up there. I know Baylor was up there. Wisconsin
won the simulated March Madness tournament.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know. I just saw a picture. Somebody made a national champion due to the coronavirus simulation for 2019. So I just wanted to throw that out.
It doesn't really matter. But Gonzaga's 1, Baylor's 2, Villanova's 3, Virginia 4, Iowa 5, Kansas 6, Duke is at 9, Kentucky's at 10, Michigan State's at 13. Other big names: North Carolina 16.
Michigan 25.
Michigan 25. That's interesting. UCLA at 22. I think it's going to be very wide open. I was really looking forward to March Madness last year because it would have been the most chaos tournament we've ever seen. I think we could have easily seen a 8 seed in the Final Four, or even in the March Madness Finals. Illinois, I think, is a team people are sleeping on a lot. They have a lot of returners this year. That they could make a deep run. They were a very tough team last year, and I think they could make a deep run in the March Madness next year.
Yeah, and last year was so much different, especially because you think back 2 years ago, you had Zion, and then you had the big, like the three-headed monster in North Carolina where they were going back and forth. And then last year, the top teams, they were like 1 or 2 lost teams. There wasn't anybody dominating everyone. There was no consensus. This is the team that you have to beat to win the national championship. People were kind of saying Gonzaga. They were just. I think Gonzaga gets a lot of credit because they don't have a ton of one and dones. They have seniors, and they were going to have a pretty good senior class last year. My shout out to Christian and Marissa and Brady. They were all they've all worked on the radio station with me up in Gunnison, KWSB. But they're the ones that live out in Eastern Washington. They were heavy on the Gonzaga train.
I do like Gonzaga a little bit because I love watching them in their Adam Morrison days and those good teams way back.
Their student section's no joke either.
They're not the Havocs, or they're not the Cameron Crazies.
Is that North Carolina? Oh, that's Duke. Okay.
Yeah, and Krzyzewskiville and all that. That's a name I can pronounce.
Krzyzewski.
I know that because
there's not even an SH in that whole name.
Yeah, Krzyzewski. It's just
Coach K.
It's like slurring some words. It's ridiculous. But like I said, Duke's gonna be there like always. I think the teams people are sleeping on is Illinois. Villanova, I think, is always Virginia? Good. That's Virginia lost so much.
Yeah.
Virginia lost. They're technically defending champions, but they lost so much 2 years ago. I think they were a team that could have been upset in March Madness early last year because they lost Kyle Guy and a bunch of studs.
We'll throw a boxing term out there because I know one of the podcasts on the network, Sports and Things, is a big boxing fan. They're the lineal national champion. They never lost the title. They never got to defend their title, though. It's like Tyson Fury. He's the lineal heavyweight champion before he won it back from Deontay Wilder because he never lost it. But I was interested to see. I picked him the year that they won it. I picked him to get upset in the first round again because I thought, well, nobody's going to respond.
No one's going to do it again.
Nobody's going to like. Maybe it happens twice. It was a pretty good odds. They were interesting to me. Iowa being top 5. I don't remember like. Big Ten basketball.
Iowa has a lot of returners. They have, I think they have 4 starters in their starting 5, so that's a big.
They're kind of like the Wisconsin of the Big Ten.
Yeah, Wisconsin is always there. They always have guys that have been in the program for 3+ years or 2+ years, and have always been there, like that know how to win, and the people before them show them the way, and that's how they're always in that argument. But I don't know. It's gonna be crazy.
What do you think of Kansas? Because when Jeremy was walking out before we started recording our regular episode, he's like, 1 seed you never go in all the way out. Gonzaga, but Michigan State, Gonzaga, and Kansas.
Kansas, I love watching Kansas basketball because the tradition is there. I've had a chance to go to the arena, and it's kind of chilling too because that arena has so much lineage behind it, going back to Paul Pierce, to Will Chamberlain, to all those days, Kansas days. Like there's so much great history, but I don't know if they have it this year, man. Like I said, I'm not very big on all the prospects that came in just because didn't get to watch March Madness last year and didn't see all the returners or what all the draft boards. It's very weird this year in the NBA too because you don't know who's going to go where because no one saw a full season because of fucking COVID, dumbass fucking COVID again coming in, it's ruining things, but. I think the teams to sleeper on is Illinois, Wisconsin. I don't know. I think Iowa's a fraud. They're the imposter, quote unquote. I think they could fall apart. I like Wisconsin over them. Kentucky's always going to be there because John Calipari just breeds NBA talent.
Yeah,
just breeds NBA talent, and anyone he puts through that program always comes out just NBA stuff.
Yeah, the top 3 basketball NBA or NCAA basketball coaches I'll say of the last generation because I know Wooden gets a lot of credit, but Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, and Calipari have kind of been like the 3 main that you always know. Boeheim a little bit because
Self as well at Kansas too. Boeheim's retired.
I like the guy at Michigan State. We did a
Tom Izzo is a really great coach.
We did a big segment on him when I was on the radio station when he had that controversy. I think it was 2 years ago in the tournament when he was screaming at the freshmen. And everybody's like, "Oh, you're being too hard on him." He came out and said that's the way he coaches. That's what he expects of us. And honestly, like. I love that culture. I love a coach that'll do. That's how we were always coached growing up. I think it's the most effective way to get the best.
No, I think Tom Izzo is bringing that conversation, and then also Villanova. Like Villanova's been always around there as well.
Were they the 2016 buzzer beater champions?
Yes, they were.
I remember
Chris Jenkins.
I remember being in Mr. Weiss's. It was recent America class at Cherry Creek High School, and we watched we were watching the tournament up until that point. We watched a couple of Villanova games, and then I saw the buzzer beater highlight.
It's one of the best college basketball games of all time. Because going back to that game, Marcus Page for North Carolina had a crazy game-tying three where he double pumped and threw up a shot and tied the game. And then Villanova called a timeout, ran up the court, dumped it to the inbounder. Chris Jenkins hit a ridiculous three, and that's all she wrote.
Mr. Weiss didn't teach us a single thing. We just watched that highlight over and over again and analysis of it. So that I remember that one pretty good. That was a good memory.
But yeah, college basketball is going to be so much fun to talk about. March Madness is going to be so much fun this year. Like I said, we got deprived of it last year or this year. It was ridiculous, and
as we get closer to it, I might have to do my own separate bonus episode with Rev for the NCAA wrestling tournament because I like March Madness going in, and it's like the wrestling tournament and then the basketball tournament starts the week after. It's a college. I'm a huge college sports
fan. And then
fan.
there's also the Frozen Four, which is college hockey. So we need a little bit of everything.
Why
sports. I mean, college sports. The one thing I'm looking forward to though, college basketball. Most importantly, before we move on to everything else, there might be a rumor that there's only going to play in conference, which means we might get North Carolina versus Duke 8 times.
8 times.
Oh, fuck me up. I would love to see North Carolina Duke 8 times.
Oh,
man. Say less, bro.
Oh
watching Duke North Carolina basketball games 8 times in a year.
That would be so. Yeah. The last time that I remember that game being huge was when Zion went and hurt his knee. But those tickets were
busted and the whole thing.
Those tickets were $2,000 for the back seats.
There's like watching the Iron Bowl in college football it's basically that on that stage is North Carolina Duke. There's nothing like it. It's must watch TV.
Michigan Ohio State. I would say
Ohio State.
I think they hate each other. Alabama Auburn. I might catch some flack for this because I know we got a lot of Southeastern Conference fans listening on the network. But Michigan Ohio State's the greatest rivalry in college football.
Ooh, I don't know about that. Texas Oklahoma's also there.
Yeah, but I mean, Michigan Ohio State's been going on I think for the longest.
Yeah, but Michigan can't beat Ohio State.
It's bad. It's bad recently, but I think historically that's the greatest.
Fair. That's fair.
College football rivalry. Duke can't.
That's a conversation.
Duke North Carolina.
Duke North Carolina basketball is I think the best. In my opinion, just because I'm a basketball geek and I'm basketball biased, but I think it's the best college rivalry in all of college sports.
Well,
whatever.
Moving on, I got some good news for you. You don't have to wear a Jets jersey. Somehow.
Oh, they lost? Oh, man.
Down by 10 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
I knew they were going to blow it.
And I didn't even jinx it this time. Dom, I'm sorry.
Oh, I knew it.
Jimmy. We almost got Niko.
You picked the Jets with fucking Sam Darnold out?
Hey.
Oh, man.
30-27, so don't give me too much shit. I almost knew what I was talking about.
Jets are still going 0-16.
I almost knew.
Count it, baby. Bet on it.
Jets I almost knew what I was talking about. And Dom, we almost got Niko in a Leonard Williams Jets jersey next week.
I told you I was going to wear a Jets jersey. Honestly, I'll make this bet right now. The Jets win a game, I will wear a Jets jersey. But any game. I will wear a Jets jersey
fine.
1 week.
I'm upset about that one. That's 2 big upsets that I had right in the palm of my hand that I ended up losing
right
on.
There, you almost had it, man. But
other big games.
Let's talk about my team because that was a shit show of a game. Broncos only lost by 7 points, which was ridiculous because we were down by 20.
I mean, the Falcons were trying to give you the game again.
We were down 21 points with 5 minutes left, and we scored 2 touchdowns back to back.
Tim Tebow 2.0.
It was ridiculous. I gave Shermer credit last week, and now I am ready to send him back to New York and just never have him coach another football game. Okay,
he's the worst offensive coach. Him and Adam Gase, 2 worst offensive coaches.
Terrible, horrendous. Let me just paint a picture because for all those people who didn't watch every single play, Shermer 2-minute drill. Just before the second half ended, we had the ball with about 57 seconds left, doing a 2-minute drill. We run the ball on 2nd and 10. Okay, whatever. Where
are you on the field?
We're on our own end. Oh, okay. So okay, maybe we're trying to run the clock out. Maybe just let it go to the second or go to the second half,
Yeah.
start over. But wait, no, it gets better. We call a timeout. We call a timeout after we run the ball in 2nd and 10, and makes no sense whatsoever. We lose 2 yards. It's 3rd and long now. We throw the ball away. Luckily, there was only about 40 seconds left, so the Falcons just need it because they were like, "What the fuck are they doing?" So it was just ridiculous. Shermer is the worst offensive coordinator I've ever seen. Like I said last week, Philip Lindsay is a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher, and you're giving him the ball fucking 7 times a game. Are you kidding me?
That's driven by this because you gave Melvin Gordon $8 million when everybody else in the league
He's
was at
not
you
worth
like,
$8 million.
what are you doing?
Running backs are paid a lot nowadays, and Melvin Gordon is not worth $8 million.
that-
They should have got the veterans minimum.
That went against everything else trending in the league too because you don't pay running backs right now because you can get good production out of undrafted guys like Philip Lindsay. Because, you pay a Dalvin Cook because he can win you a game, but
We'll talk about him in a minute. He's in the MVP race now.
Talk about the 49ers last year where you have 3 undrafted running backs. You don't need to pay a running back what the Broncos decided to bring Melvin Gordon in. And he didn't elevate the locker room with his veteran presence. He's been in trouble more than he's been on the field with his DUI and strep throat. The only good thing that he has going for him is he's gotten a lot of touches because Philip Lindsay couldn't stay on the field this year so far.
He's been injured and stuff like that.
But it was a bad look.
I knew we were going to lose before the game. I lose before the game because if we did the NFL UnHinged show, I would have picked the Falcons because one, we didn't have Bryce Callahan and we didn't have AJ Bouye, which means OJ Mudia, who has been pretty good this year. I'm going to give him credit. Has been pretty decent, but he's a number 3 cornerback. He was our number 1 cornerback. We threw 3 guys out there off the practice squad and told them to go guard Julio Jones.
Yeah.
That's never going to end well. Matt Ryan looked like MVP Matt Ryan. It was ridiculous.
We forget.
They didn't run the ball at all.
No.
They started up our secondary.
The Falcons' offense is all first-round picks. All former first-round picks. Matt Ryan. I thought that they were going to get rid of Matt Ryan at the trade deadline because
they might now. They might at the end of the year. I think
they probably need to move on at some point. But he still has Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst at tight end, and then Todd Gurley out of the backfield. He's got way too many weapons. You guys got to look into bringing up Bosby.
He was on the practice squad. I don't understand. He had a great training camp last year. He was in the mix, and for some reason he got cut today. For some reason, he's not on the roster, and maybe he got cut today just so they could bring him back to the 53-man.
Well, he wasn't on he was on the Cardinals, I think.
Yeah, because he was on the practice squad at the beginning of the year. Then the Cardinals picked him up. It was a whole stupid thing. And having your starting 2 corners out when you play Julio Jones.
Calvin Ridley.
Well, Calvin Ridley didn't play because he's hurt. But against Julio Jones is never going to
end. And whoever 17 was, because he had a pretty good game against your third string.
It was Taylor Gabriel or something like that.
Something. I don't even know.
It was just ridiculous. There's so much talent.
Good silver lining in the shitstorm that was the game yesterday. Jerry Jeudy finally played like a top
Jeudy
top
is
receiver.
going to be a number 1 option or a number 2 option for this offense going forward. Jeudy is a stud.
That was the best thing, thinking about what he and
also
Cortland
starting
Sutton,
in fantasy football also helped out.
But he and Cortland Sutton next year when they're both healthy are going to be something to be
healthy, man.
Yeah.
I am not ready to shit the bed and just ship everything and say we need a tank because we have talent. We're just most of our payroll right now is on the IR. Mm-hmm. Almost about 75% of our payroll right now is on the IR. It's just bad injury after bad injury. If we had Callahan and if we had Bouye, we may have won that game, I think, on Sunday, just because they would have been able to lock up Julio a little bit easier. But they were just taking advantage of Davante Harris.
Somebody needs to tell Drew Lock that the game doesn't start with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
And Shermer's offense does not work unless you're in no huddle, apparently, and you're in desperate needs.
I said it last week. You got to kind of throw out what you want to do and just play the way that the guys like playing.
A 2-year-old can tell you to throw the ball in a 2-minute drill.
Or just commit to a plan, because I think maybe what he was doing was he did think that he was going to run the clock out and not try and throw, but he didn't. I don't think the coaching staff talks to each other. I don't think they have for a while over in Dove Valley. They've, I think since Mike McCoy was the offensive coordinator under VJ, they've not had very good communication between each other. He probably wanted to run the clock out. Fangio's like, "Why? Let's go try and get some points." So then you got to call the timeout and almost screw yourself. Good thing you're playing.
You're giving the ball to Philip Lindsay in the wrong times. You're trying to establish the run way too late. You only had 20 rushing yards in the first half, which is ridiculous because the Falcons defense is banged up still, and their middle is not as good as it used to be or whatever it may be. And you're only running the ball 20 yards in the first half. That's just ridiculous. We had 2 yards in the first half before. You have to start better. Drew Lock. You said the week before that we gotta stop booing too early. Well, we were booing all game this week, and you didn't do shit until the fourth quarter. So the Broncos fans are upset because we expect greatness because this team is expected to win games. Because we never ever have the first overall pick because we're always in contention in the games we play, and that needs to happen. And when we lose, like we were losing on Sunday, we're gonna be pissed, and that's just the end of the story.
I think if you're not going to fire sale and call this a dumpster fire at the end of the season, you have to make sure that you at least go 8-8. Because if you go, would this be 3 or 4 seasons in a row that you have a losing record? We went
8-8 last week, or last year, so it wouldn't be in a row.
No, you went. I thought you went 6, 7, and 9.
We won the last game of the year.
I'm pretty sure you were 7 and 9 last.
I don't know.
It would be like
last year out.
I just
know we went 3 and 1 the last 4 games of the year.
Yeah. Hold on.
But either way, I'm not putting the blame on Fangio. It's not Fangio. Let's be honest here. Our defense has been fantastic when we're not injured. Fangio is a defensive coordinator, and I guarantee you he's not calling offensive plays. I promise you that because I haven't seen this bad of offense all year besides watching the fucking Jets play, and that's just facts. The offense is not running smoothly. The only time the offense is doing anything is when we go no huddle, and that's just being ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Maybe we have to do no huddle, hurry out the whole game. Maybe that's the deal.
That's an option. You guys finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You were 7 and 9, so it would be 3 years in a row that would be a losing record, and that's just something we talked about it last week. Mr. B took the team over, didn't have a back-to-back losing seasons for 25 years. Now you're possibly going to stare down the barrel of 4 in a row.
This is the injury bug coming to us, but the coaching needs to be better. It's not, like I'm going to keep saying, Fangio is not the problem.
I think they got rid of Scangarello a little bit too quick.
That was way too soon. They should have kept Scangarello around, especially after Drew Lock's great end of the year last year with those 4 games and that offense. It was ridiculous you did that. You had to go get Shermer because he just got fired, and it's ridiculous.
Another disappointing quarterback performance.
It's not victory week this week, but I went 3-0 in fantasy football, so it's kind of victory week. So there's a positive.
Niko's not going to go 0 whatever.
I went 0-3 the last 2 weeks in fantasy football, so this week I went 3-0. So we're turning the script, so maybe I just need the Broncos to lose for my fantasy football team to do good. So
I'll tell you who you wish you had in fantasy football, Josh Allen.
I have Josh Allen.
You have Josh Allen. So he's a. We said going into last week. This is if you're an MVP candidate, this is where you show it.
Yep.
Or it's just going to be a joke. He showed it.
He showed it big time.
31 of 38, 415 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the Bills defense finally decided to start playing football. Holy crap!
Holy cow!
I think they knocked Russell Wilson out of the MVP race, especially with Dalvin. Well, I mean, come on. He hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, and then yesterday two touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And he had a fumble. I think he did have a sack fumble that he got the ball taken away from. So 2 fumbles yesterday. Lost 2 fumbles. So 4 turnovers total. And the week before that, I think he had a few interceptions. He had a few interceptions in the loss to the Cardinals. Like he hasn't, as good as he started off, he's really fallen downhill. Dalvin Cook's picking up steam. Patrick Mahomes is picking up steam. I think that Russell Wilson is out of the MVP race. And Josh Allen has kind of asserted himself in as a little bit of a sleeper.
The argument to that is that Josh Allen did not have a good last few weeks, and Russell Wilson has had a pretty bad 2 weeks in a row as well. So it's going to be dependent on
I think Mahomes is going to come back and steal it. Yeah, honestly. That's the way it's looking.
I'll say this right now, Dalvin Cook is in the race. I think we could see a running back win. The Vikings are a terrible team, and the only reason why they're winning football games is because Dalvin Cook is carrying the whole team on his back.
209 yards.
He missed 2 games, and he's leading the league in rushing. He's having himself a year, and if he keeps putting up these numbers weekly, we could see a weird year where they give to Dalvin Cook. I'll be honest.
It could be.
If he keeps putting up these numbers every week.
Yeah.
It could happen.
A
bad Vikings team might even squeeze in the playoffs.
He's going to come down.
In the playoffs.
I think they have a chance for the playoffs, especially in the NFC. But He plays the Bears next week, so he's going to kind of come
run
back
for 300 yards there.
No, the Bears defense is good. He'll kind of come back down, but after that he goes Cowboys, Panthers, Jaguars, Bucks.
Okay,
those are
we'll get to the Bucks in a minute, but you're right about the Bears. I take that back. The Bears offense is the shit.
The Bears offense is Bears offense is up there with the Broncos, Jets, and Bears.
Bears offense
worst three offenses.
The Bears offense is the shit, so not the defense, but sometimes that affects the defense. So maybe Dalvin Cook has himself a week, but that's definitely he's going to be the number one fantasy running back this year by far. And
I think he had 49 points last weekend in fantasy.
It was ridiculous.
Especially depending on the league. If you get points for yards too, because 209 yards from scrimmage is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But going back to the Buffalo-Seattle game, I think it was a week where Seattle could have been a trap game. They lost the week before a big game against Arizona, which was a very tight game. And then going to Buffalo is never easy. Josh, like it was frigid. Josh Allen is a stud. Like, I want to give Seattle the benefit of the doubt.
Seattle's defense is their downfall.
Yeah.
Seattle's defense is going to be the reason why they possibly waste as good as their offense is.
DK Metcalf is the best receiver in football right now. There's no doubt about that. He's been putting up ungodly numbers.
I'd say most dangerous. I don't know about best receiver. Most dangerous because he doesn't produce every single week.
That's fair. But most dangerous receiver in football right now. And Russ, the Bills had the right game plan. The Bills, I read somewhere where the Seahawks were prepared for the Bills to run the ball a lot, which is ridiculous because the week before they played the Patriots, and the Patriots had good corners on the outside, but that's all they have, so they ran the ball a lot. That's why they won. But this week, you had to think that Josh Allen was going to go hard because Seattle has no secondary at all, which is weird to say because Legion of Boom wasn't that far removed.
They're not. They're the. I think right now it's between them and the Falcons this year as the worst passing defense of all time.
It's very bad. The only thing Seattle has going for them is Bobby Wagner up the middle. And now, I know you hate him, but Carlos Dunlap didn't have a terrible game either. So that's a bright spot. But you have to have help in the secondary because people like Josh Allen is just going to dot you up.
Jamal Adams is finally back, but their whole defensive pass scheme, they don't even look like they know where they're going or where they're supposed to be.
It's one of the worst, in my opinion, one of the worst preparations for a game because you had to think Buffalo was going to air it out. Yeah, they ran the ball a lot the week before because they're playing New England, but your secondary is as bad as it is. If you're Seattle, you have to help either by bringing more pressure or doubling people or whatever it may be on the back end. That's just not what they did, and Josh Allen had a heyday.
Well, I think too. They haven't had Chris Carson for the last rough stretch that they've been going.
Yeah, that should help them.
That would help their defense because then they can kind of take the air out of the ball a little bit. Yesterday they have Dallas is the last name of the running back that started, but they as a team they rushed for 57 yards. So your defense is going to be out there for a while, and Josh Allen threw for 415 yards. So if you can kind of I can't remember who. Oh, it was the Bucks last night. Yeah. When you have 4 or 5 straight 3-and-outs, your defense is going to break down no matter how talented they are. The Seahawks not having a great defense anyways, and they're back on the field so many times. It doesn't surprise me with the way that game was played. It surprised me going into the weekend. It was one of my toss-up games. I think I did pick the Bills in our pick'em last week as one of the upsets that I had, but it was definitely a strange game. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs is a match made in heaven.
John Brown too. John Brown had a good game too.
Like I said, they set up their receiving core perfect for their quarterback because their quarterback can outthrow anybody, and they just have a whole bunch of really small, fast guys that get behind the defense, and that's they're able to win that way. And now if they get the running game going the way that it had in the past few years, I think they're even more of a contender in the AFC. I think they're for sure winning the AFC East.
Oh, that's 100%. Like we said, New England barely got past New York today, or on Monday as we're recording this. Barely got past New England, so there's no shot. Unless Dolphins make a run, let's talk about that a minute, because that was my upset of the week. You called me out ridiculously for that, and
it was close because they had to win on the last in the last part of the game.
Tua is a stud. Tua's the man. Tua.
They also shouldn't have won that game because that kicker went short on a 49-yard field goal, which is just stupid at this point.
Yeah.
With the way that kickers have expressed. That was not for the brand. Shout out Pat McAfee. Yeah. But that's why we make the specialists sleep in the bathtub on road trips because they don't. If you can't make a 49-yard field goal we know you can kick a 60-yarder. It's not going to be. if you've seen Goon, you're riding piss hole in the bus. Yeah, it's not a good time.
He redeemed himself luckily, but I knew that was going to be a great battle. Kyler and Tua had some battles in college, and it's a match made in heaven. That was such a fun game to watch. Like I said, watching Kyler and Tua go against each other again, it's must watch TV.
And it was a good sign because Tua in his debut was not good. He got helped out way. His defense played out of their mind again today, and the special teams have been good. But he actually looked like a former Heisman Trophy finalist. Mm-hmm. He actually looked like a guy who's won a national championship and was the number one. He was the consensus number one pick for like a year and a half until he blew his. Went off. Yeah, and until he dislocated his hip.
Sure, yeah.
So he looked like he should. Kyler Murray, I don't know, like the defensive coordinator dropped the ball.
You want to know who their defensive coordinator is?
VJ.
Vance Joseph, baby. Yeah. The dumbest coach the Broncos. The dumbest signing of a Broncos coach that we've ever had.
Yeah, you could have had Shanahan when you hired Vance Joseph.
Stupid.
You got to get Isaiah Simmons more involved in the defensive scheme. He won you the game on Sunday Night Football against the Seahawks. I think that's the best NFL game so far this season. Mm-hmm. And then you barely had him in the defensive game plan at all. And it was just that was their downfall. Like their defense didn't prepare well coming out of the break. Kyler Murray did everything that he could. He had 283 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and another 106 yards rushing, and another touchdown. Like he carried the team on his back, did all that he could. Tua just got more help from his role players around him.
Cliff Kingsbury's offense is the real deal, and it showed. Kyler Murray has been striving in that offense, but you draft Isaiah Simmons for a reason. Vance Joseph is not the answer. I'm telling you right now. I know from experience, he's not a good defense coach at all. And have him running your defense and not using Isaiah Simmons like you have Patrick Peterson, you have Isaiah Simmons, you have Budda Baker,
Budda Baker and Isaiah Simmons could be the best tandem safeties on par with Dirty Dan Sorensen and Matthew over in Kansas City.
Yeah,
that could be one of the most deadly secondaries in all of football.
If you use them correctly.
They are missing Chandler Jones because they don't have a pass rush now. So
maybe that's something they trade for. Who knows? But
it was interesting to me because I said when we were talking about this game in our pick'em that it's a rematch from college, but now Kyler has just as much talent around him as Tua did. Because when they played in college, Alabama was so much more talented than Oklahoma. There was no chance that Oklahoma was going to pull off the upset there. I thought it would be more even match, but Tua again had the better surrounding cast and got the victory. He's 2-0 against Kyler now.
Yeah, the lot. Now before we move on to most dominant team of the week, last game I want to talk about your most hated team, Pittsburgh Steelers, barely pull off the win against a very, very bad Dallas team. Who's Dallas quarterback?
It was Garrett
Gilbert. Garrett Gilbert. That's right. It's not Ben DiNucci anymore. It's Garrett Gilbert.
He was the AAF star.
Yeah, Garrett Gilbert. Maybe he's not going to be the starter going forward, but maybe
he should be the starter over DiNucci.
And over everyone else. The rest of the year, yeah. But
I don't even know if Andy Dalton's still coherent after that hit. So who knows?
He's done for. Maybe just start Garrett, Gilbert, the rest of the games. This is promising. Maybe they can pull off the division now. Who knows?
It's a fun story because Garrett Gilbert is a hometown kid. He's a Texas guy, so that's cool that he's playing for his hometown team. But I think this was a trap game for the Steelers, I'll be honest. And I talked to...
Still the only undefeated team in the league, too.
Yeah, and it's the first time in franchise history, for as storied as that franchise is, it's the first time they've been 8-0. To start the season off.
Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches of all time too.
And he's the reason that Niko Fitzpatrick decided to make his way to get traded over there. I don't see this as like a road bump. I still, with the way their schedule's set up to finish, they play the Bengals this week, but I really only see them maybe losing to. They play the Bills in Buffalo. And they play the Ravens one more time. Those are the only 2 games that I could see them losing. I think we could see them finish 14-2, maybe 15-1.
Maybe be the 1 seed or them in Kansas City because the 1 seed means a lot more this year. The 1 seed now guarantees you a bye, and the 2nd seed is not a bye anymore.
Yeah.
So that's going to be huge between them and Kansas City. I think it's going to be the tussle for the 1 seed. But if Pittsburgh's able to get the 1 seed and Kansas City has to play an extra game, that might be the biggest bump in the road for Kansas City. Not repeating as Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, you got to watch a little bit. Roethlisberger did kind of get banged up in this game. He hurt his knees when he got sacked or hit one time. So that's something to look for. But the Steelers are, I think they're 2 in the AFC because I think the Chiefs are just better than the Steelers, but they're the best record in the AFC, and I think they could finish with one of the best records that we've seen, regular season records in a little bit. And that'll be the last one that we talk about before we get into it.
Due to technical difficulties, and my dumb ass doesn't know how to work the camera sometimes, we're going to have a small little ad. Except we don't have an ad. So we're going to plug the NFL UnHinged show on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
To noon.
Well, to noon. To 12. So it's a 2-hour show. How about that? 2-hour show. I'm going to have to wake my ass up that early at 8 a.m. But be sure to check me, Jimmy out, the J-Dash guys, the High-Low Sports as well. Man, all of us.
Gridiron Gallery.
Gridiron Gallery. A little bit of everything. Maybe we'll have more guests on. Who knows? Be sure to check us out on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, if you want to see what a budgeted Sam Ponder looks like, you can. Actually, I don't know if we're doing the video, but you'll be able to hear. I'll be moderating, and we got tons of opinions.
You can picture Sam Ponder, but hear Jimmy's voice.
Yeah, that's exactly. Everybody makes. I sound exactly like Sam Ponder, but that's coming up on the Unhinged Network live Sundays from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time.
So without further ado, since we don't have another ad, let's go back to the show.
All right, those are probably the most prominent games. I know that we're missing one pretty big one, but we'll talk about that. We're going to do our most dominant team of the week, and I'll start. Mine's the Bills. I talked about them, and they really surprised me. Their defense is what kind of gave them the most dominant team of the week for me. I thought that was going to be that was their X factor that pushed them over the edge. So my most dominant team of this past week in the NFL.
I think that's a fair team to pick. Like I said, Josh Allen had himself a day. I think for me it's pretty easy. We didn't talk about this game, but it was the Saints. We both thought the Buccaneers were going to be the team they were, but wow, what a pounding the Saints put on.
That's the worst I've ever seen Tom Brady look.
What a pounding we saw them. Your washed King Drew Brees came to play, had himself a day. But
I don't know what the hell the Buccaneers secondary was doing, because there was a couple times where he was just throwing to guys wide open by 20 yards. But the pass rush, I think, is the most telling thing.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett did not do anything.
No, the Buccaneers didn't get a single finger on Drew Brees, and
I'll give Drew Brees a little credit because he does get the ball pretty fast.
Since the first play from scrimmage, Cam Jordan got his hand in Brady's face, and it was all game from then on out. Demario Davis had a great game at linebacker for the Saints. Their defense as a whole looked really good.
Yeah, beating them 38-3 is just outlandish.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I thought that the Bucs were going to win, but if you sign Antonio Clown, this is karma for signing Antonio Clown. And Tom Brady decided that he didn't have any other receivers besides Antonio Brown because Mike Evans was open, Scotty Walker was open.
Yep.
So
I do think it's ridiculous. The Buccaneers think that they have to have everybody. They have so much talent on the offensive side. There's too much now. Yeah. Now you're taking snaps and you're taking catches away from one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL, Chris Godwin. Yeah. You're taking reps. You're taking receptions away from Mike Evans. One of the biggest freaks in the NFL. Freaks in a good way.
I mean, just like he's 6'5" and runs a 4.6 40.
It's ridiculous. And then O.J. Howard was a stud, and Gronk is there too. And now you have Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. There's so much pieces that you're forgetting about everything else.
Oh, they ran the ball 5 times total. That's the lowest amount of rushing attempts in an NFL game in NFL history.
My brother has Ronald Jones on his fantasy team, and as we were watching that game, he was like, "Why the fuck are they not running the ball?" Yeah, it was just ridiculous.
No, I think they handed it off to him twice. It was
stupid, awful. Man. It's stupid. The Buccaneers had a terrible game plan going into that. I'm gonna take that on Bruce Arians partially, and they gotta prepare better. Saints came to play and knew how big a game this was because now they're gonna win the division.
Yeah, now they're outright winners.
Yeah, outright winners for sure. So it's now the Buccaneers have to play on the road in the wild card, and Tom Brady in the wild card games may not be so good anymore.
That's why I didn't pick the Saints as my most dominant team, because I thought they played good and they announced themselves as they're still when they're healthy, because Mike Thomas was back. But when they're healthy,
God, I benched him luckily, but I still won, so it doesn't matter.
But
I may outright not play him anymore in fantasy football just because he's pissed me off so much.
Yeah, I didn't know if you started him or not, but the Buccaneers played so badly that I couldn't give the Saints my most dominant team.
That's fair.
All right, let's get into next week's pick'em. The Bengals are playing again. They got their automatic victory out of the way, their bye week, and now they get to play the number 1 team in the AFC record-wise.
Let's start with Thursday Night Football,
Yeah.
because Thursday Night Football game was really good last week. Packers
wasn't
beat
good,
the
but the
49ers.
Packers kind
Better
of...
than what we usually are
Yeah.
accustomed to on Thursdays. So we have Tennessee hosting the Colts. Pretty good game. Colts, Philip Rivers throws to the opposing jersey more than he throws to his own jersey.
And then even when he doesn't, he looks really bad trying to make tackles on turnovers. We'll talk about that more.
That's terrible.
Yeah, because that gets brought up in my play of the week. I picked the Titans in this one because the Colts gave up they had the lead on Lamar Jackson at halftime, and Lamar Jackson was 0-6 before this past weekend when he was losing at halftime. So the fact that they fell apart that way and the Titans are trying to bounce themselves back from 2 tough losses in the middle of the season, I think these were the 2 top teams in that division in the AFC South. I think the Titans assert themselves as the outright favorite to win that division and get one of the top 4 seeds in the playoffs.
So you're picking Titans there, yeah.
Titans.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans as well. Titans had a bounce-back game beating Chicago, which was a pretty closer game than most people thought. I think they went away from running the ball with Derrick Henry, which was a mistake. They tried, against the Bears defense, like you said, like Jimmy said, sorry, because I talked about their offense. The Bears' offense as bad as they were, and thought about the defense. But yeah, they got to run the ball with Derrick Henry more. So I think Titans will win this game. The Colts are tank for Justin Fields. I'm gonna tell you right now, tank for Justin Fields.
Yeah, it's upsetting because they have pretty good talent around.
Jonathan Taylor has been one of the best rookies so far.
And Hines is a good running back too. And then on defense, Darius Leonard. And I think they have Xavier Rhodes now, cornerback from the Vikings, who's really good shutdown guy. So they have a lot of talent. They're just wasting it with no quarterback. When your guy that you thought was going to be there for another 5 years, Andrew Luck, decides to retire halfway through a preseason game, it's going to be rough quarterback-wise. But I do think that the Titans are going to stomp the Colts on those.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Next game we have Texans going into Cleveland. Kind of an interesting game. I don't remember these teams ever playing against each other in a while. I think this is one of the first times Houston has gone to Cleveland.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, but I'm taking the Texans here. J.J. Watt had a pretty big game. He's coming back. I think he holds some record. He just broke some record. I totally spaced on what the record is, but he broke some record, and now Deshaun Watson kept Will Fuller around, so that's even more help for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with the Texans here. I think the Browns are still frauds. I don't know if they're the real deal. Without OBJ, who knows what Baker looks like. I think they just had bye week 2, right?
Yeah, they were coming off their bye 2. If Nick Chubb is playing, that kind of changes my mind. This might be one that I flip when we do NFL UnHinged. But right now I'm picking the Texans too, just because their offense is good enough that they're going to put pressure on the Browns to score. The Browns have a pretty good formula to win. Like, they run the ball, and if you run play action off their run game, Baker's pretty good and can be efficient and win you ball games that way. But they don't always stick to that game plan. They still have a little bit of Freddie Kitchens left over him. I think Stefanski is going to be their coach moving forward, but he still has a little bit of Freddie Kitchens where he gets away from what he knows works and tries to be too fancy. So I'm picking the Texans.
I know Nick Chubb might be back because he's on. I picked him up off the IR, so maybe that's a must start. But I don't know. I'm still picking the Texans there too. Next game we have Detroit Lions hosting the Washington football team. I hit my Giants pick last week on the football team.
It was close. It was close.
Game,
Danny Dimes though is undefeated against the football team. I didn't realize that. He's 1-16 against everybody else, but he's 6-0 against the football team.
Beat the football team. Who do you have in this one?
I'm picking the Lions in this one. It's only because Washington's momentum got derailed last week, losing to the Giants. The Lions did too. They were kind of on a mini run, but since it's at home, I'm giving it to the Lions. Hopefully Matt Stafford can get a couple more wins before he either gets himself out of Detroit or maybe he's going to be the next great Lion to retire early. Yeah. He's not on the same level as Sanders and Megatron, but it would be a pretty big waste of talent.
Of a career, yeah, for sure. I hate picking with you because I like to have different opinions, but I have to help my record out.
Oh, we're going to have a couple different opinions.
I have to help my record out a little bit, so I'm going to go Lions as well. Like I said, Washington football team, it looks like Alex Smith is going to start this week again because Kyle Allen can't stand
his ankle in the same spot that Alex Smith broke his leg and Joe Theismann broke his leg. They got to do something with that field.
They need to change their team name, first of all. That's the first
get a team name. I started a franchise with them in Madden, and I moved them to Toronto out of Washington. That's how bad. That's how bad I think their situation is. Kyle Allen's leg also fell off again. So they got really bad. I think all of their quarterbacks since like the 90s have had some debilitating leg injury.
Looks like Haskins is gonna have to find himself a new job though, that's for sure. But maybe he'll come back and play.
He's this close to getting put back on the field just because they don't have another quarterback, or they're gonna bring in Shane Falco like the replacements. I have no clue. I feel bad for Ron Rivera. It's a good season for him because of what he's overcome, but football wise, it's tough.
Yeah, it's very tough in Washington. Next game we have Green Bay Packers hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Green Bay had a pretty big game last Thursday, taking down
beat up a
very badly injured 49ers. Like the Broncos, the 49ers have had the injury bug like no other. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers here. The Packers are, I'm going to say it again because Aaron Rodgers had a pretty great game last week, and Devontae Adams is a stud, but he's a bad man. Devontae Adams is a bad man. But him and Aaron Rodgers are bad man. So now I'm taking Packers easily. This is an easy one for me.
I'm not gonna give Aaron Rodgers his bad man title back because I think if it was Jimmy G and George Kittle were playing, maybe I'll give him it back. This is a week where he can kind of get that back for me. I think he's gonna beat up on the Jaguars with
maybe we even see some Jordan Love action.
Maybe no. I don't know if we see Jordan Love action because
if they're killing him bad.
Maybe just so that you don't get him hurt. But like the Jaguars defense doesn't have anybody that I think can really do anything.
They don't have Calais Campbell. They don't have Ngakoue. They don't have anybody.
I didn't realize that they don't have Ngakoue. I'm picking the Packers.
Well, Ngakoue, he was traded to Minnesota, and now Minnesota traded him to Baltimore. So he's been 2 trades removed now.
Well, I'm picking the Packers in this one just because the Jaguars suck eggs. So.
That's interesting take, Jimmy. But okay, we'll go to the next one. The worst division in football: Philadelphia Eagles going into New York and playing Danny Dimes and the New York Giants.
Yeah, I picked the Giants in this one.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna try and pick this season series right. I got the Eagles in the first matchup, even though you tried. That one was where you kind of jinxed the Giants. Because I thought we had both picked the Eagles in that matchup. You picked the Giants. I ended up winning, and you threw me under the bus. I'm picking the Giants in this one because it's at home for them, and the Eagles, they're like a good 1 week, bad the next. Danny Dimes maybe gets another win against an in-division opponent, and the Giants stay alive in that division. Somebody's got to win it. Somebody has to win the NFC.
Giants pissed me off too much. I'm taking the Eagles because they pissed me off with that week.
Hopefully Daniel Jones doesn't see the 11-yard line. That's all we're hoping for.
Next game we have Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off a tough, very bad loss going into Carolina and a very, very game Carolina Panthers. Mm-hmm. That rule has done an incredible job.
If the defense plays anything like they did last night, the Panthers will win this game. I actually picked the Panthers.
Wow. Okay. Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna go along with you too. No, actually I take that back. I'm going with the Buccaneers.
Okay.
The Bucks. That was a very, very bad game. They have too much talent. I don't think the Panthers don't have Run CMC again. I'm gonna go with the Bucks just because like it's Tom Brady. Teddy Bridgewater has, I believe, in my opinion, solidified himself as a future quarterback, which is crazy to think about because everyone thought they'd be in the Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, but he's shown himself why he was where he was a few years back. So I give him a lot of credit, but I'm taking the Bucks.
Oh yeah, I think that's a solid choice. If the Bucks defense actually shows up this week, it'll be a pounding.
Hopefully they do. Antoine Winfield needs to play better as well. Yeah. And up front, they got to get something from Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, their front seven is really, really good with Levante David, Devin White. Levante David might be my favorite linebacker in football because he was
one of the most underrated linebackers in football.
He was still playing with his hair on fire and trying to make as many plays as he could last night, down 31 points when it was 31-0. So he's still going, but not having Vita Vea in the middle kind of hurt them last night because Kamara and Latavius Murray were able to just kind of run through the middle of the defense. I think that's where they're kind of lacking, and the linebackers can't make all the plays when. You don't have a D lineman to hold up the offense.
You have to have help, and they weren't getting help at all. Next game we have my Denver Broncos going against the Raiders. I saw a preview of what your pick was. I want to hear why your explanation is this. But I'm going with my Broncos because I still believe that we can inch our way back in a playoff race. We just have to take down the Raiders. The Raiders have been playing really well, but they took down a bad Chargers team last week. So I don't know.
And who did you beat 2 weeks before? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I said bad Chargers.
The same Chargers team.
Yeah, bad Chargers team.
I'm going with the Raiders because it's in Las Vegas. Drew Lock isn't going to show up until halfway through the fourth quarter, and the Raiders are good enough on offense that they can close out a game. I don't think that they're not going to give the Broncos the same kind of opportunities they had late. Drew Lock's got to prove to me that he can show up when the game starts. I don't have as much faith in Derek Carr as I do in other quarterbacks, but I do think that he can win you a game against a team as injury riddled as the Broncos. So that's why I'm picking the Raiders. And they're coming. They have momentum. The Broncos interrupted their momentum. I thought if they would have beat the Falcons, I'd be saying probably a completely different story. But I'm sticking with the Raiders. I think they're going to beat the Broncos.
I think the one thing that favors the Broncos in this matchup that didn't help last week is the Raiders' passing game is not as good as the Falcons' passing game. I think the Broncos are. I know the Broncos' run game is a lot better than the pass game right now, especially the injuries we've had in the secondary. I feel a lot more comfortable with. The up front guys for the Broncos slowing down Josh Jacobs and then making Derek Carr throw the ball, which we could see a Henry Ruggs big day.
Who's gonna cover Darren Waller?
Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons. He locked up Kelsey pretty well when we played the Chiefs, and so I'm not too worried about Darren Waller. I'm more worried about Josh Jacobs.
That's a totally different matchup though. Travis Kelsey and Darren Waller. Yes, they're same position, but Darren Waller is much more. I'd say he's almost more of an X receiver than he is a tight end. That's a different matchup. I'm not sure. Like 6'6" and a guy who can run like that.
Well, if you get Callahan and Bouye back, then you throw Callahan on him. So that's the difference.
That would be a difference maker. I think Kareem Jackson actually might be a bigger factor in the Darren Waller matchup. But that's if you can shut him down, then I can see the Broncos winning.
Yeah, if you make Derek Carr throw the ball a lot more, then the Broncos, I feel like, have a better chance to win. But if you're not able to stop Josh Jacobs, there's no shot.
We don't have any, there's nothing else to talk about if you don't stop Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, so but I believe in our defense still. Like I said, we're injury riddled, so maybe we're able to pull it off. I think Philip Lindsay gets back into form. I think Pat Shermer gets his head out of his ass.
You hope.
I hope. And Jerry Jeudy, after the week he had last week, I'm gonna get the runner there, Jim boy. But I'm hoping Jerry Jeudy is able to have another great week because he helped me win fantasy football last week. So
he asserted himself. This is where you step up and assert yourself for the future.
So I'll pick the Broncos with that win.
Next, I told you we'd have plenty of opposite.
That's true. Next game we have is a pretty good one. Two rookie quarterbacks, picks one after the other. Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert going into Miami and playing Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, I have Tua picking up his third win as a starter. I think that the Chargers, but I do have a beat of the week about this game as well. But I think that the Dolphins, with where the two trajectories of the teams are completely opposite, the Chargers can't win games, and the Dolphins have found out ways to not only win close games, but they're blowing people out too. So I'm picking the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. This scares me more now because the Dolphins are going to come off a 2-game win streak. I think it's 2-game win streak.
I think it might be 4.
Maybe 4.
Because Fitzpatrick won 2 before he got
That's right. So they may come out of a win streak, then they play the Broncos the following week. So it's going to scare me for next week, but I think Tua is going to outplay Herbert. The Chargers find new ways to lose every single week. Every week.
I don't have the Rona, by the way. This is just what happens when you record back-to-back episodes.
Yeah, and our voices are getting a little shaky. But next one we have Buffalo going into Arizona. This is going to be a great game. Like we said, Kyler Murray is going to stud. Kyler Murray versus Josh Allen may be the best quarterback battle of the week.
I think it is the best quarterback matchup of the week. And I'm going to go with the Bills because the Cardinals' defense didn't look good last week. And Josh Allen throwing for 400 yards kind of gave me some confidence in him moving forward. And this is another game where he just not MVP token. I think maybe as you go through the end of the season, you're just trying to pull in chips, and this is where he could get himself a chip and beat a team like in the best division in football in the NFC West, beat the Cardinals on the road. That would be huge for him.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills as well. Like I said, Vance Joseph doesn't know how to put up game plans, so I think Josh Allen's going to have himself another career day. He's going to win me another fantasy football game this week. Next game we have the Seattle Seahawks playing the Rams. One of the best matchups as well, because both these teams are
best division of
football by far, and what a great matchup this is. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks here. Like I said, I think Russell Wilson is still one of the MVP candidates in the NFL, and DK Metcalf is the most dangerous receiver in the NFL right now. And I think that defense is going to get it together when Jamal Adams comes back.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of I'm at this point I'm picking the Seahawks. This is another game where I could flip on Sunday. The only thing that gives me some pause is the Rams are coming off a bye, so they got some time to clear their head and get healthy. And that defensive front can give the Seahawks the same problems that the Bills did. If you can't protect Russell Wilson, you can't run the ball. This could be maybe an upset, and the Rams kind of get back into that race for the division. Because right now they're 2 games. They're behind the Seahawks and they're behind the Cardinals. But this would be where they can pick up on the Seahawks and then even put some more pressure on the Cardinals too. Maybe sneak back in. Because winning your division is also huge. Getting the 1 seed is the goal, obviously, but now winning your division and having home playoff games is going to be big moving forward as well. So I think it could be a Rams upset, but I'm picking the Seahawks at this moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. Seahawks fully there. Next game we have San Francisco 49ers playing the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans coming off a huge, massive win. Do you think this is a dull on the road? Do you think they have a huge high, or do you think they continue their dominance?
They're playing in the Dome. I'm not picking the Saints. Picking against the Saints in the Dome, especially against a team that's going to possibly have C.J. Beathard or Nick Mullins as a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And no George Kittle, and that Saints defense is finding their rhythm. So I'm picking the Saints, and Cameron Jordan is going to introduce himself many times to whoever's playing quarterback for the 49ers.
Like you said, that defense is catching stride now that they're getting more comfortable. I'm taking Saints as well. Like you said, at home, it's a tough one. Now, your game of the week, Jimmy, because I know you've been circling this one on your calendar for a long time now.
Steelers.
Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Bucket Burrows going into Pittsburgh and playing the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do you have here? I'll start because I know who you picked here, and I think this could be a bump in the road for the Steelers. I think last week showed that the Steelers have flaws and the Bengals can make adjustments. I just am worried about your defense right now. The only thing, I think Joe Burrow is going to put up points. I'm just worried about your defense. I think the Steelers take this one just because I think Chase Claypool and Juju are going to have days, and James Conner is going to have himself a day. That's the only reason why I take you guys. But I do think I could switch on Sunday. This money I think switches on Sunday.
I'm picking the Bengals because I refuse to pick the Steelers. I will not do that. That's the team that I cannot stand in the league. But my big thing, I want to see how Joe Burrow plays against Mika Fitzpatrick. Because this is kind of similar back when Carson Palmer was going up against Troy Polamalu. You're going to have to find a way to outthink the best player that you're going to be playing against. I'd say Minka's the leader of the Steelers. He's like the face of the Steelers at this point. Yeah, their offense, they still have Big Ben. He's a Hall of Famer or whatever. Don't go into a women's restroom if he's on anywhere near the vicinity. But
another week another Jimmy Big Ben joke.
Yeah, Rottenberger can go suck it. But that's going to be my big matchup. I want to see Joe Burrow. I think he's going to lose this one going into Pittsburgh for the first time. But also, he's got the balls to think that he can win at Heinz Field no matter what. The Steelers have not let the Bengals beat them at home in a while. It's been like 8 years since they've won in Pittsburgh. But I'm picking the Bengals because, you know what? F the Steelers. I can't stand them.
You finally have a quarterback with the balls to go into Pittsburgh and beat them, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a great game to watch.
If they're going to beat the Steelers, they beat them when they play in Cincinnati.
That's definitely the 225 slate game that I'm actually take it back. Arizona and Buffalo is a big great game. I'm looking forward to. But I'm definitely going to check that game in the background.
I'm going to B-Dubs, and I'm going to watch that game. I'm going with a buddy of mine who's a Steelers fan from school. We're going to put it on the big screen. Screw everybody else. The Broncos will be playing
game is on too, so I don't know if that's going to work out too well. But
we'll find a big enough TV that we'll be able to. We'll enjoy it off to the side, but that's my game of the week. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, next game we have Baltimore playing the Patriots. Patriots coming off a shaky win against the Jets. I'm going to take the Ravens here because Lamar is. I think he's doing a lot better. Maybe we see Dez Bryant more into the game plan this week, which I love watching Dez Bryant play when he was with the Cowboys. So I'm hoping the best for him, but I'm taking the Ravens in this game.
I'm also picking the Ravens. The Patriots. I think this is going to be the first time that in our lifetime that they have. Well, not in our lifetime because we were born right before their dynasty started, but since like 2000. That they're going to lose 4 in a row.
Actually, they won this week, so they won't lose 4 in a row.
Oh, I guess that's true.
They'll go.
We were talking about that before when the Jets were leading in the fourth quarter, but this is not I mean, Bill Belichick can't win without Brady. Can't be as dominant
Brady
as he
can't
was
win
without
without
Brady.
Belichick, and Belichick can't win without Brady.
But the Ravens are bouncing back, and they're going to pick up another big momentum win over the former dynasty, the dynasty of yesteryear.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah, Monday night game now. Minnesota Vikings going into Chicago and playing the Bears. This is going to be a really fun game because it's going to be the Dalvin Cook show versus Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
And like I said before, Dalvin Cook has entered himself into the MVP candidate. I know it's weird to say that as a running back, but the dude is literally putting up unreal numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal numbers. I didn't pick him for my player of the week just because I didn't want to go back-to-back weeks, but I could have picked him easily again. And he's going to have ungodly numbers again. Who do you have this week?
I'm picking the Vikings. I said it last week with the Bears playing the Titans. We're going to figure out who the real imposter is. And based off of last week's result, that would be the Bears. They are the worst good team because their defense is good enough that they can still be considered a good team. But Nick Foles isn't the answer. Matt Nagy's not the answer. They are the dumbest franchise in football because you passed on not only Deshaun Watson, but you passed on Patrick Mahomes, and you picked Mitch Trubisky, who'd played like
Traded up for Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, you traded up. And you picked Mitch Trubisky, who'd played 11 games in college, over two guys that are going to go down as probably the best quarterbacks of the upcoming generation, in Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes.
It's ridiculous.
So, yeah,
I really want to take the Bears. I'm taking the Bears. Bear down. I'm going to go different than you just because I think the Vikings aren't going to be able to do anything in the passing game. I think they are able to slow down.
Kirk Cousins in prime time scares me a little bit.
I'm gonna say that Khalil Mack and the Bears defense are going to be able to slow down Dalvin Cook for the first time all year, and that the Bears offense, I don't know, maybe if Nick Foles gets hurt and Trubisky comes in and they win, I don't know. I just don't I don't like either of these teams.
If I was a Bears fan, I'd want the Bears to lose because maybe Nagy gets back on the hot seat.
He should be on the hot seat.
He's 5-3. That's the only thing. He's 5-3. And he made it to the playoffs in his first season. He's under Andy Reid's coaching tree. It's like the guys under McVay's coaching tree. They're going to give him as many opportunities as they can before they completely go away with it. But something's got to change for that organization. They've never had a great offense, even when they won the Super Bowl back in '85. They got to figure out something because if you can score points with that defense, maybe if they bolster their offense a little bit, it screws over their defense. But you're wasting what has the possibility of being an all-time defense.
Yeah, it's a sad thing in Chicago. On other news, the Jets are on a bye week, so I won't my
automatic win.
Now it's automatic neither because they won't have a 1 next to the name and they can still go defeated and go 0-16. So that's good. And
I tried, Dom.
And the Dallas Cowboys are on the bye week, so maybe Garrett Gilbert will get some more reps underneath him. So.
Maybe that gives Andy Dalton some time to wake back up.
Oh, gosh.
Somebody wake up Andy Dalton. I still think he's laying on the field.
Honestly, Dak Prescott with a broken whatever is better than any of those quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true because after he was still the leading passer in the league 3 weeks after he got injured.
Ridiculous.
That's how ridiculous his numbers were moving into that. But you picked up a few wins last week in the pick'em. I still think I might be winning overall, but
yeah,
it was more competitive last week.
I've been slacking. I still don't have the record, so I'll have that for next week between the head-to-head because we're going to continue doing that more and more every week.
And we'll talk about all these games again on our NFL UnHinged show
more into
Sunday.
depth as well.
Yeah.
We only have a 2-hour show, so we can only do this for so much. So.
We blew through that pretty quickly, but it'll be fun talking to because we know each other's opinions pretty well. I mean, we've known each other long enough, and this is our 14th episode. Congrats
14,
on 14, big 1-4. But so we'll continue to talk about that. We'll have some other opinions. I hope Jim is on the podcast on Sunday because
about Patriots.
so I can give him so much shit about the Patriots.
Yeah, Patriots are
If the Bengals win, I gotta see what the Patriots schedule or record is. 3-5. So if the Bengals win this weekend and the Patriots lose, the Bengals have a better record than the New England Patriots. Suck it, Jim.
I hope
everything's going well for you in your personal life, but that would be hilarious for me.
That'd be good. But now let's get into the beats of the week. I'll start because I talked about it a bit earlier when we talked about NCAA football. Miami, the Hurricanes, the U to beat Virginia Tech, which is ridiculous because Derek King had himself a day or plus 110.
They're also way better. There are two games they're 7-1, and
I think maybe
Virginia Tech's 4-3.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because Virginia Tech's at home or something or whatever it may be. But that's definitely it's tough betting on college football. We're gonna say this every week. Tough betting on college football, but that's gonna be one of two.
Obviously, because I lost my big upset bet last week in like the last 6 minutes of the game. My first one, Chargers plus 2.5 against the Dolphins. I'm gonna say take it because maybe this is the time that they overcome and win a close game. But I do think that it's gonna be. I think the Dolphins, if to get that one, Dolphins got to win by one, less than a field goal. So 1 or 2, you can get that. That'd be pretty decent money on the Chargers.
That's pretty good. I'll stick with football or the NFL next. I'm gonna go your Bengals, Jimmy, plus 200 to beat the Steelers. I'm surprised.
That's it. Plus 200.
Plus 200. It was actually pretty decent. Like
that's. I thought it would be like plus 400 or something.
That's pretty good. So people believe in Joe Burrow. So I'm gonna believe in Joe Burrow.
B.
I didn't pick him in
Joey
the pick
Donuts.
but I may bet on it because Joe Burrow is a stud. So
Joey Bag of Donuts. I'll take it.
Bengals plus 200 beat Steelers. My second beat.
All right, and you'll hear about this again on Friday when we have our Masters episode. My next one, Brooks Blake Koepka. Shout out if you listen to Pardon My Take. All the takies out there listening. Brooks, runner up for Blake of the Year on the Pardon My Take show. He's plus 1,600 to win the Masters this weekend. And he's fun to watch. He's the only golfer that I really know that's like current. I know that I said that he was a bad boy at golf, and you guys kind of schooled me. I can't remember
I'll tell you about him in a minute because he's my beat of the week.
But he's my pick to win the Masters this weekend. We had to have a Masters bet on this show.
Of course, we had to have a Masters bet. My final beat of the week. I'm gonna stick with Jimmy here. I'm gonna take in Bryson DeChambeau, the bad boy golf. If you follow the game of golf at all, you'll know that he's very eccentric. He's like
he's a fat guy.
He's a quote-unquote Pat Mahomes just because of how outlandish he is and the different creative things he does. He trash talks a lot more, so that should be fun. But he's a favorite right now, so I'm going to go with him plus 800. I think it's his time to shine. Well, be sure to listen on Friday's episode because Jeremy has a lot of great takes on that. I believe he
told both of us that we were stupid.
Yeah, he told both of us we were dumbasses for our picks. I forgot. I think he took JT Justin Thomas to win. But he had a lot of great picks. Be sure to, if you're betting on the Masters at all, you're going to want to listen to the end of that episode because he tells you who to stay away from, who you should bet on, and what the back nine on Sunday is going to look like. So you're going to want to, if you're betting on the Masters at all, be sure to tune in.
That'll be a good episode for everybody to listen. My last one, Seahawks plus 102 over the Rams. I picked them in our pick'em. I did say that the Rams have a possibility for an upset this week, and I do think that is possible. But if you're gonna have a team who gets a random underdog that you want to put money on, the Seahawks are that team. They're gonna be a pretty safe bet, I think. And plus 102, not a huge one, but it's still winning something. So.
Yeah. So that's our beats of the week. Like we said, we've been hitting most of our beats of the week. I did not check to see if my Manchester United.
What you didn't watch? You didn't watch soccer?
No, I didn't. I didn't check the Manchester United score. I'll check that in a minute. But that we've been hitting our beats of the week. Jimmy won his Arlovsky bet last week. He almost won his NC State pick.
Almost.
I won the Indiana pick. I didn't win the Broncos pick, but I think I may have won the soccer one. I don't know, but I'll check that again.
Start listening to us and put money down on what we say. Maybe we'll do. Moving forward, I'm not going to put a ton of money down, but maybe if we start forcing us to put some money on at least one of the ones that we pick, maybe people will start betting with us because we want you guys to win some money. And like I said last week, tip your dealer because we're technically how you guys pick that one. So if you win some money, throw a little.
And all of our Denver natives, the Colorado Sportsbook was opened up in Blackhawk, so now you can go bet live in person, not just on the app. So be sure
now
to
you
go
don't have
that.
to do daily.
Oh, and just update: Manchester United 1-3-1. So.
Oh wow!
Oh, another beat of the week.
I thought you were gonna get a tie. Honestly, talking about
beautiful,
soccer.
Baby.
There you go. Shout out, insert FC name here podcast. They're on our soccer podcast on.
Hey, I got a soccer pick, so why not take my golf pick as well?
There you go. Now moving into the final two segments. Play of the week and player of the week. Listen in. Pay attention at the end of our episode on Friday
because we
might
have a new
segment.
New segment next week.
But so. we'll do play of the week first. Mine. Too bad Jeremy didn't stick around. I don't blame him because it's like 10:15 on Monday night. But my play of the week, Chuck Clark's scoop and score in the Ravens Colts game, and what made it my favorite play of the week. There wasn't a huge play that kind of just stood out. I mean. Yours is pretty decent, I think. And it was like a signature moment that he had, his second one. But Chuck Clark, and he got to hurdle Rivers. Rivers like fell down and then just tried to do a reverse worm to maybe trip him up and just got jumped right over because Chuck Clark is an NFL athlete and can do those kinds of things. And as Scooper scored a touchdown, wasn't a turnover that Phillip Rivers caused, but he made it so much better with how he reacted.
That could have been blooper of the week. I don't know, but it could have been. It was really bad.
He should get benched for that effort. That's what we should say. He should be joining us on the far end of the bench for that effort.
Yeah, no kidding. But my play of the week, it was kind of a dull week in plays of the week, if we're being honest. Like we said, there wasn't a whole lot of sports going on besides football. I'm going my play of the week. I'm going with Jerry Jeudy's touchdown. It didn't mean anything because it's the end of the game, but one of the best receiver moves I've ever seen. Jerry Jeudy was one-on-one with the corner, waved his hand in the air, basically saying, throw me the ball up deep.
Call a taxi.
He stopped on a dime, turned around. Drew Lock hit him perfectly, hit a great ball hit to him. Jerry Jeudy duked around him and got in the end zone. One of the best plays from a receiver we've seen in a while. Technicality-wise, not athletic-wise, just because
That's what you drafted him for. You drafted Henry Ruggs, the two receivers from Alabama. You drafted Henry Ruggs for the freak athleticism. Jerry Jeudy's a really good athlete in his own right, and he's fast and everything, but his route running was as good as a rookie receiver coming into the league has been for a while. Him and Justin Jefferson for the Vikings have been my two favorite rookie receivers to watch.
Yeah, it's no Luka Doncic's game winner, but those are okay plays of the week.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Maybe we'll have so many plays next week.
No.
I think maybe mine, maybe someone
maybe
playoff in the playoff, maybe for me, maybe I'll do a Masters play.
I'll watch a highlight of whoever wins. Maybe I'll watch the guy get the jacket at the end of it, but I don't know if I'm going to be. Sorry, Jeremy, I don't know if I'm going to be watching the Masters this week.
I'll be watching it with you, Jared. Don't worry.
All right, you go player of the week first.
I'll go player of the week. You had to help me out with this one because, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I picked Tua. Tua had himself a day, 20 for 28, 248 yards, 2 TDs, 35 rushing yards as well. He outplayed Kyler Murray, which Kyler Murray was the number one pick the year before, and Tua was the 5th pick this year. This solidifies the Dolphins that they don't need a quarterback next year. Now Tua is the real deal. Now they just need him to get healthy and make sure to have weapons around him. So.
I'm picking my player of the week was a guy you picked a few weeks ago, Alex Smith, and I'm trying to get that same sympathy vote. His first 300-yard passing game, he also threw a touchdown. So the first touchdown and first 300-yard passing game he had since his horrific leg injury. So it was a feel-good story of the weekend, but there wasn't anything that really stood out.
They lost, but there wasn't a whole lot standing out.
He did also throw 3 interceptions, so don't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Just pay attention to the fact that he actually played like an NFL quarterback after he almost lost his leg and almost died. So
exactly.
That's the end of our segments this week. We're wrapping up here. Let's get in all the plugs. We're going to have another episode that goes the full length on the Unhinged Network. So if you're listening, follow them on social media, Instagram at UnhingedSN. That's also the URL for the website. Check out the blogs that are there. There's always content going, 24-hour internet radio.
Click the link tree in both Jimmy and I's personal bio, or click the link tree in all of our bios, and that will lead you to every single thing. You can click on the Unhinged website, and it'll take you right to the website. You can click play, and you'll be able to listen to whoever's on the website.
Yeah, and then
or on at that time. Sorry.
If you're listening to us live on the Unhinged Network, stay tuned for the Duff City Podcast Masters Weekend, so you know they're going to have a big episode for them coming up. And then follow us on social media at FeOTB Pod, Twitter's, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Far End of the Bench.
Hit the bell, baby.
Turn on the notification bell. We had our Center of Attention come out on Monday on our YouTube channel and our other social medias, and we'll have 3 videos coming at you this week. Our regular episode, the bonus episode with Jeremy on Friday, and then NFL Unhinged. We're trying to upload that as soon as we finish it. And get it up there on Sunday morning as well, so you can watch and listen along to that before the NFL games start.
There's so much good content going out. Like we said, we have content on basically anything you listen to on. If you don't like listening to people just jabber on, you like watching something, you can watch us. If you don't necessarily like seeing our beautiful faces, you can just listen to us on Spotify or Apple.
Turn this on in
whatever
the car,
anything.
Anything. Yeah, subscribe anywhere you listen. Subscribe. Give us a like, leave a comment, do something so that we know you're listening. We can kind of go back and forth with you guys. Start leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts again, rating us there. We'll start reading good reviews on the podcast live. And we got some more. We got more bonus episodes planned.
A lot more during the holiday season. Also, don't forget Jimmy's hoodie. Man, we might have merch soon. If y'all give us some more love on YouTube and Apple and Spotify, we might have to drop some more. It's a pretty dope logo. It took me about an hour to do it, but.
And we're like we said, we might have to extend the Benchwarmers a little bit. We got 4 on it right now, but if we think that we're gonna start dropping some merch, let's go ahead and extend this thing. And tell everybody, tell a friend to listen, tell a friend to check us out, because I know the best way to
spread Christmas cheer is singing aloud for all to hear.
So the best way to promote a podcast is to tell your friends to check out our 2 dumbasses who ramble on for an hour and a half every week. It's gonna be worth it. Come on, if we continue to get more views and more stuff, we can have more special content for you guys.
And we can have more special guests and more fun things planned for you guys, because the more love we get, the more stuff we're going to give back to you.
Everything that we do here, we're sports fans first, and we do this for sports fans just like us. So we're trying to be as entertaining as we can, as engaging as we can. And with that, this has been Far End of the Bench, episode 14. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next week.
Peace!